Good evening. We are still a very, very new channel. We've been going for 2 years, and I'd never done television before, although I'd sat, of course, on the other side of the desk, often with people that I attended today's TRIC Awards lunch with, the Television Radio Industry Club, and often on the other side of the table, I've been treated by them rather like a war criminal at times. So I've only been 2 years into this job, and I'd never been to one of these big annual lunches that take place at the magnificent Grosvenor in London, and it was extraordinary. 1,700 people there, and people on the stage saying, "Aren't we wonderful? Aren't we so great? Isn't this all lovely?" Backslapping, congratulations, a lovey-do on a scale you simply can't believe. And it was all going really rather swimmingly. Well, at least according to those that have organised it all. But the TRIC Awards made one big mistake this year. Rather than the casting vote on who wins various categories being decided by the industry themselves in their own committee, they put it out to a public vote. And they hadn't really reckoned, I think, on what GB News might do. Shock number one, and boy, it was a shock, was when GB News Breakfast won, and that is just the most incredible achievement. I mean, Good Morning Britain, which is a very heavily funded programme that's been going for years, and yet the public voted for GB News Breakfast, and that is an absolutely massive credit to the midweek and the weekend teams. And then it came to News Presenter of the Year, and it was a very august cast. Of course, we had, Susanna Reid and the great, if you believe it, because he often says it, Piers Morgan, myself, and Stephen Dixon, and Eamon Holmes as well. So 3 of the 5 that made the shortlist were from GB News. You would have thought the industry was beginning to get a bit of a hint. Well, I won. And I won not really because of me, but because of you. And we asked you again and again if you wanted to back me to go onto the TRIC website to vote. 5 times we crashed the website. There were some saying that it was clearly going to be a rigged election, but in the end it proved that it wasn't. And they were astonished by the number of people that engaged and voted in this process. So look, I am delighted, thrilled, as a new boy in television, to have won this award. But this is more about you making the effort to vote for me than it is about me. So, of course, my moment came to get up and give a speech. And I thought, well, I'm going to be as magnanimous in victory as I possibly can. And I thanked all those that have voted for me, especially those that lived outside the M25, little dig at those that live in central London. But then I couldn't resist having a go at something called Barb. I know you've never, ever heard of it, but all the figures for television viewing, whether it's news or entertainment or whatever it may be, all of it comes out through an organisation called Barb. Barb are 5,300 boxes that are in people's homes around the country. And guess who owns the organisation that publish the viewing figures? All of the other broadcasters. They are allowed, effectively, to choose the panel and to mark their own homework. And how can you judge, in a country of 66 million people, well, at least that's what we know of, how can we judge that audience by just 5,300 boxes? The whole thing is a complete and utter farce. And bear in mind, this industry is worth 12 to 15 billion pounds every single year. There are massive advertising revenues that come off the back of those Barb figures. But that's the way it's been forever, and nobody has ever got up and challenged it. Now, I know myself from my years leading UKIP, when the opinion polls consistently underestimated where we were, that the establishment doesn't like newcomers. So I basically told them their fortune. It felt at times like I was back in the European Parliament. Here's a short clip of what I had to say to a very complacent, self-congratulatory television industry.
This industry is worth between about 12 and 15 billion pounds every year. And it matters culturally, it matters in so many ways in our country. And yet, the way we measure who is watching and who is listening to programmes is completely out of touch and out of date. I had much louder than this in the European Parliament, sir. I'm disappointed. The idea that Barb, from which all the advertising is set, is owned by the existing broadcasters means the industry is marking its own homework. The idea that 5,300 boxes across the country, oh, I can hear the noise. There's a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of money at stake. Any idea of competition, and you should shout, and you should be frightened, because you will lose your jobs, because I can tell you this, Barb is wrong, and we need reform of this system. We need, oh look, there we are. We need, the heavies have come.
Well, there you are. They just wanted to shut me down for stating a self-obvious truth that the way we measure TV audiences is bent, it's broke, it's out of date, it doesn't work. And I know something. From all my years in public life, GB News out there not only has attracted an audience that love the output from this channel, the balance they get from this channel, but it's a lot bigger than the industry dares to admit. I really did touch upon that nerve today. They hated it. They screamed. They shouted. Gosh, I enjoyed it. Cheers, everybody. So tell me, is GB News winning? Let me know your thoughts. Farage@gbnews.com.